Hello and welcome back to Down to the Tyre. As you can hear, my voice is much better this time, but it's actually only been a few days since we recorded our last episode because, as we teased on our Instagram, we are doing a British GT double special to launch season 4 of the podcast. Ahead of the Silverstone 500, we caught up with a driver who, honestly, we were so excited to speak to because he won the British GT3 championship last year. We hope you enjoyed this episode with Charles Dawson as much as we enjoyed recording it.
Thanks for joining us today, Charles. My first question, I always like to ask this. How did you kind of get into motorsport in the first place, and what's your first memory of competing?
I think I got into motorsport mainly. My dad was always an F1 fan. I remember watching it with him from the young years, from mid '90s onwards, really. So that we've always had a passion as a family. I haven't really, I didn't really think about competing until 5 years ago. 2022 is my first season. Actually, I had one day of go-karting when I was about 11 years old, but I was apparently extremely scared of it, so didn't go any further. No, a lot's changed since then. So I think, just passion, family passion, and we were fortunately in a kind of position, lucky enough to start going into most sports as an amateur at a fairly young age for someone in my position. So yeah.
As you mentioned in 2022, I know you competed in the TCR Endurance Series. At that point, was GT racing the goal, or was that not even in the picture kind of at that stage?
No, not really. I didn't know too much about it. I think GT4 Europe was always. I think I kind of well, I knew a little bit about it, but it kind of seemed a long way off in terms of what we were doing. So no, really, just things kicked off in driving the TCR car and NES 500 across Germany and Europe, and I guess things just the driver or coach I was with, my pro at the time. He knew he had good connections in GT Europe, so he kind of pointed me in that direction. And I think the more I got into the first season, the more I understood about motorsport. I think the allure of GT racing kind of started pulling me in quite a lot because it's I think it's one of the most popular type of GT racing at all sorts of levels. So yeah, I think it was certainly it became a goal later on in my first season, certainly. So and I was quite keen to. I think the progression from where I was doing TCR cars really was only TCR Europe, which was quite a competitive level at that point, and not really an AM friendly series. I guess it was, it was one category, one class. So I think also the GT4 Europe, GT racing offered a little bit more, um, a little bit more scope in terms of different classes available with that pro am category.
So you spoke a little bit about sort of how the opportunity arose to enter GT4 Europe. What was that like to drive the Cayman, and how competitive was it as a series?
It was, yeah. Well, I tested at the end of 2022, and it was brilliant. It felt very very different, but quite it was the Cayman itself. It was quite a tricky car to drive at the start. It's maybe one of the more road based GT4 cars, I would say. So yeah, going from a front engine TCR car to a mid engine Cayman was quite a it was getting my head around it at first, but yeah, and then 2023 signed up to the full GT4 Europe season, and sadly, we did a couple of tests in the winter, which were all really good, and getting to grips with it. And sadly, on the first Thursday test, I think it was at Monza, which was the first race of the year. I had quite a big accident and ended up breaking my back, so I actually missed I missed kind of two-thirds, three-quarters of the 2023 season. So my my getting to understand the Cayman sadly was curtailed quite quickly, and focus turned to recovery, getting back from that injury, and then later on that season, I actually started testing the Mercedes GT4 car, which I felt like I got on with a lot better. So yeah, I wouldn't actually say I got on with the Cayman particularly well, to be honest with you. I found it quite a tricky car to get on top of, and especially when the tyres started getting older, it was maybe a little bit more nervous on the rear than the Mercedes. So no, following the injury and following later on 2023, the focus really turned towards getting used to Mercedes product.
And you said getting used to the Mercedes, did that lead to the ambition to then do British GT? Because obviously you did the full season there in the Mercedes, didn't you?
Yeah, definitely it was. So I did 4 GT Cup races in 2023 with Seb Morris, and from there, the kind of idea of doing a full British GT season started to take shape. And Seb was instrumental in not only our success and bringing me on as a driver, but an advocate for the series himself, being a champion, GT3 champion in the past with the Bentley. It seemed like a natural progression, and we were doing well. We were getting good results in GT Cup, but I think ultimately I wanted to try and take it up to the next level. And yeah, British GT certainly seemed like a step in the right direction. Approach to, I think, same as it is at the moment, same as last year. So the approach in 2024 was just literally take it as it comes. We didn't have any expectation on ourselves. I don't think we expected to get the results we did, and I think we didn't necessarily drive a lot of pressure on ourselves. Maybe not. Maybe later in the year when we're in the championship fight, obviously pressure naturally came a little bit more. But I think it was no, we just wanted to enjoy it, and there was a sense of seriousness as well. I took it seriously, but at the same time, that's where Seb was great, being able to, he was good in making me relax, and we had a good laugh. And no, so we didn't really come into it with any aspirations. We had a good winter season to try and make up for the seat time I lost in the year before through injury. We did the GT Winter Series, which was brilliant, and that was a really, I learned a lot that winter series of mixed conditions, colder tracks, lower grip, and it really helped, I think, coming into the season, kind of starting strong. So no expectations at all.
Yeah, because I was going to ask, obviously, that season started really well with 2 wins in the first 2 rounds at Oulton Park. How did that feel as someone new to the championship? Like, were you expecting that, or was that a complete shock?
No, definitely weren't expecting it. No, I think it exceeded, especially the overall results. I think in Pro-Am we won. I guess it was split into Pro-Am the overall, but no, I mean, and it was a full grid as well. It was 18 GT4 cars that year, which was brilliant. And no, it took us both by surprise, and I think we both came away from that weekend saying it's not all going to be this easy. And I don't think we actually scored another overall win from that point on. So no, it was a really strong start, and definitely not something we expected. But I knew Seb put it on pole in the pro qualifying, and in the silver and pro qualifying, and I think considering he hadn't been in the car at all in the winter, it was it was nice to see him come back to form. And so yeah, maybe Seb had a little bit more expectation than me, but as a pair, no, we didn't tend to go down that road.
So there's one round that really sticks in my mind from that season, and that was the first visit to Donington. I remember particularly a torrential rain shower not really mixing with slick tyres particularly well. And am I right in saying that Seb was in the car at the time, but how frustrating was that round for you?
Yeah, it was it was really gutting, to be honest, because we were kind of riding a bit of a high, and I think what's really interesting actually is from that round onwards, we were the highest scorers across even in the overall championship. So it definitely affected the overall the chance of the overall win. But yeah, it was a shame to happen. I think it was just circumstance. One lap, Seb goes around that corner and it's damp, and next time he comes around, it literally the heavens have completely opened on the from the corner entry to not even halfway down the straight. So he's arriving, and as you say, on slicks on an extremely wet track, and sadly, yeah, it was completely out of his control, and it definitely stalled the momentum we had at that point. And who knows if that hadn't happened, but things will happen for a reason. We still came away with the Pro-Am win at the end of the season. So but no, it's certainly watching it live. I remember being in the garage watching it live, and just like everyone in the garage, because I remember the radio, the car controller coming on the radio is telling Seb, just so you know, like literally being on TV, he coming on the radio saying, "Oh, watch out, turn 1," but it was too late. Literally, as he was saying that, like Seb was already arriving into turn one, so it was seeing it career off. And then to be honest with you, I think I don't want to go over old ground, but it was, I think, still to this day everyone was quite surprised that wasn't red flagged sooner. With the number of cars going off, and ultimately we suffered the worst because a car came off and hit us and ended our race, so we weren't even able to get going again. But I think potentially if a red flag was thrown out sooner, it might have let the race restart and we might have been able to score some points. But there you go, that's old ground, and things worked out in the end. So
yeah, I mean, we were both at that race, and I remember it really well. And I did think myself as well, after seeing a few cars go off from where we were, is it going to get red flagged at some point, or even the safety car? It felt like that took a little while to come out as well.
no, it was definitely. I don't want to criticize the guys too much. They were in control because in those situations, I'm sure there's all sorts of stuff going on. But yeah, I think there was definitely a general consensus that it took a little bit too long for things to be deployed. And I think Seb being in the car was not a pleasant experience. And but no, it's just one of those things, and I'm sure everyone's learned from it. So
We have a lot of rainy memories from Donington, and that is definitely one.
yeah, it was, yeah.
So obviously, at the end of that year, how much of an achievement did that season feel? Did you feel like you'd accomplished what you sought to accomplish at the start of the year?
I think we'd exceeded. As I was kind of saying, I didn't really come into the year with any sort of expectations. But I think, if someone was to tell me at the start of the year you'd kind of walk away at third overall and with the Pro-Am championship, I think I would have been laughing really. So no, I think we definitely exceeded all expectations. And felt like I'd accomplished a lot. Really, learned a lot as a driver, developed a lot, and it was. It was kind of weird because I guess halfway through, the tension turned towards the championship and maybe less so on trying to develop as a driver. But I guess that naturally comes with it. But yeah, it was. I wouldn't say, as I said, I didn't really sit there at the start of the year saying I want to win the championship. So really, it was all, and it was a weird last race because we were in the fight for the overall, but it quite quickly came. We just didn't have the pace to match the silver drivers out front, and I think it was the Aston and the McLaren. They were just extremely quick on that day, and I think on the second corner, our closest Pro-Am rivals were taking out the race. So, kind of Seb came on the radio after 3 or 4 corners on the opening lap, saying, "Right, if we bring the car home for the day, we're Pro-Am victory. But if you go out there and you really push things and try to go for the rule, and we crash out, then we don't win Pro-Am." So it was a weird, very weird feeling. And I guess part of us felt, should we have gone for it and maybe tried a bit more of opportunity to go for the overall? But I think, to be honest with you, I think with the pace of the others, I think the Pro-Am was probably the going for the Pro-Am was the sensible and most realistic option that day. So but no, huge sense of achievement, and it was beyond happy to get the result.
So that season, obviously, as we've said, you drove the GT4 Mercedes. How different was that to drive compared to the Cayman, especially because it's front engine? Did it feel particularly different, and was it more driver friendly?
Yeah, definitely. Certainly more AM friendly. I think. I just think it felt like more of a race car from the ground up. I mean, it's still, obviously it's GT4 car, so it's still very, very much road car based. But it just felt like I'm not very good at describing it. It just felt like more of a race car. Everything from gear shifts to braking to even to the way it handled. But yeah, it's obviously you can kind of induce you don't want too much understeer obviously, but it's nice because you can kind of induce that understeer. It just felt very safe in terms of coming off. In the higher speed corners, it felt very planted. It wasn't just going to snap on you, whereas sometimes on the Cayman, you would have a bit more of a twitch. And so certainly more AM friendly, and I certainly got on with it a lot better. It had its limitations. Straight line speed was always an issue with it, and especially in GT4 Europe. And because we did 3 of the last rounds there in 2024, and on some of the larger European tracks, it really suffered there, whereas the Cayman didn't. So Yeah, it's I just personally got on with it a lot better.
2025 obviously then saw you enter into GT3 racing. What were the biggest changes kind of going from the GT4 to the GT3, especially in terms of managing traffic? Because I know that's always kind of a big
Yeah.
factor.
Yeah, so I think you're definitely right. I think being the faster car and managing that traffic was it's fairly easy though, especially you get to know some of the cars during the season, which ones you can rely on, which there was a couple which were maybe a little bit more um what's the correct terminology I'm looking for? Maybe a little bit less predictable. So no, that yeah, definitely learning that. But I think I'd done a little bit of Creventic racing in a cup car a couple of times, and or actually no, just one race. And I guess being the slightly fast, not as fast as the GT3 traffic, but faster than the GT4 and TCR cars, and that it was good experience before that. So and yeah, but I think the biggest changes was I think going from not just there's just more people involved in the GT3 car. I was like, you walk into the team and there's, you've got a car engineer, you've got a performance engineer, you've got 3, 4 mechanics. It was the whole thing just felt like bigger. And then I think, actually in car, I think entry speeds was, getting your head around that, how the aerodynamics worked and the car would stick and getting used to that and finding it's like the limit had moved on again from the GT4 car but then the limit doesn't move around so much. So it in some senses, I actually think it's easier to drive in the GT4 car. I think a lot of people would probably agree with that in some sense. I think if you get your head around the entry speeds and I think physically as well, had to try and to get the best out of it. Certainly had to step up my own training and that getting used to that physicality of it. Especially somewhere like Silverstone. I remember the first time going out in the test with 2 Cs, and I think it was like 4 half-an-hour sessions. When normally that's not, you wouldn't really say that's a lot of driving, but I remember at the end of the day, the first time being absolutely knackered and certainly not feeling as relaxed in the car. So I think finding that flow, finding that like relaxed sense of driving style it almost took the whole of 2025 again to find that. So yeah, definitely a lot to get your head around, but at the same time the inside of the GT3 Merc is very similar to the GT4 in terms of it's the same control, same steering wheel. So that felt, obviously a completely different kind of need, but that felt reassuring. There are some characteristics in terms of handling and performance. I think, it's quite a slow car to rotate, and you really have to wait and be patient in the middle, right in the middle phase of the corner. So there were some similarities, but I think there was also it's just I think the it's just for me more fun to drive a GT3 car. I think it just feels more of a race car.
We said it was quite fun to drive the GT3 car. You certainly did a good job in the first couple of rounds, winning at Donington and then effectively winning the Silverstone race in terms of the championship scoring cars. So essentially, did you expect that level of success prior to the start of the season, or was that a pleasant surprise?
No, again, same as the year before. We just said, look, right, we're taking a step up to GT3. Let's just go out there, and I think we called it a building year, and because we were going to do GT4 again, but we were going to do GT4 Europe, but I think we decided to actually, make the step to GT3 at quite a late date, and no expectations. Especially that first qualifying at Donington, I um, certainly didn't expect to come out of the traps that far. So and I think we'd had a couple of days at Spa the week or so before, just as our kind of like pre-season test, and had quite a big shunt coming up Eau Rouge, and that knocked quite a bit of confidence out of me. And so I really came to Donington feeling like still a little bit sore and wasn't the first time back in the car. So but no, I think I've always enjoyed Donington as a track. That kind of it's quite a fast flowing track, which I like. And No, it certainly exceeded expectations, probably a little bit too much, and obviously, a lot of conversation about driver grading following that weekend, and which I understand from both sides of the coin. At the same time, when you look at it, ultimately Rob Collard wasn't there, which you would say is probably one of the strongest bronzes in the series, and the Lambos had their restrictor reduced, so they weren't as quick as what they normally are at Donington. So I think. I think a number of factors kind of made that gap potentially look worse than it actually was. But no, it again exceed no expectations. We didn't go into it thinking we want to get pole. It was just kind of just follow the process and see where we end up, really.
Yeah, so I was going to ask in relation to after the first race, did the championship sort of add success ballast almost to your car for the rest of the season?
Yeah, so following that, I think we were given 35 kilos for the next race at Silverstone, which is a big chunk around Silverstone. Like I think from when we did a back to back on one of the Greystone high performance days 2 weeks before the Silverstone race, and I think it cost us like 6-7 tenths minimum. So yeah, it was a big hit. And that was then subsequently reduced to 30 kilograms, then 25 kilograms, which is where they settled on for the rest of the season after Silverstone. So yeah, it felt a bit frustrating at the time because ultimately, we'd prepped well, we'd done the hard work, I'd done the performance, and then they come in and kind of, they slap a weight penalty on you, which for me was manageable. I think for me, looking at the results throughout the rest of the season, where I ended up qualifying was maybe fair at times. But I think for Cian, it was really harsh because he's not the one performing well, and he was having to perform against top pros with an extra 25 kilos. So it was really hurting him. I think I felt, in his qualifying, and pro qualifying is so tight. You're looking at, a couple of tenths can make the difference between P3 and P9, and it's even at smaller tracks like Alton and Brands, it was still costing us minimum 3-4 tenths a lap, and as I said, when that comes down to the pro class, that's a big chunk. So yeah, that was with us for the rest of the season, which was hard to get our head around at the time.
At what point then did you actually start to believe you would be able to win the championship? Was there a kind of turning point midway through the season where you thought, you know what, we can actually do this?
Yeah, I think trying to think back when that it's hard not to. Again, I go back to that same approach of following the process, no expectations, and we did try and take that into all the weekends. Of course, naturally, as it went on, we had a bit of a disappointing Spa weekend, but then we kind of bounced back at Snetterton with a win. Although the second race was maybe a little bit disappointing. So I think after that weekend at Snetterton, we were like, okay, we were really in the fight here. We need to, we definitely got a chance of winning this with a good result with Brands Hatch. And so I would say, yeah, following that Snetterton weekend, it was like, right, we're definitely in this. So, yeah, I think also naturally following round one with the performance we had, we kind of like, okay, we've got a really strong car, strong driver lineup, but we really tried to maintain that no expectation, follow the process attitude for right the way through. So yeah, but I would say that a little bit more pressure started creeping in before Brands Hatch.
So you guys had a 28.5 point lead, I think, if I remember correctly, going into the final round at Donington. Did that help your confidence going into the last round, or did you still feel naturally nervous?
I think, yeah, definitely. No, nerves were definitely present, but again, we were at a track that we knew, and I was confident in the scenarios that the probability were that you look at historic results, the chances were certainly with us, but the Donington decider always throws up something. So yeah, I was certainly a little bit more nervous than normal, I would say. But again, we just tried to maintain that attitude of going out there, enjoying it, and just could take it corner by corner, session by session. And although I don't know if that would necessarily apply to me in the race, I think the contact with Giacomo early on, which was I guess deemed deemed a racing incident, and then obviously tagging Morgan later on, which, you know, looking back, was certainly my fault at the time. And it would, I think, I wouldn't say the red mist descended after the contact with Giacomo, but certainly it got me G'd up, and I was like, I don't want to throw this away. But ultimately, we also knew the Lamborghinis were extremely quick, and if either of those won, then we won the championship. Which, you know, you got someone like Sandy Mitchell in the car leading the race halfway through. It's certainly reassuring, but it was no, it was an eventful race in the end, yeah.
So what was it like, that moment when you actually were crowned the British GT champions? How did that feel? And then now, obviously, a bit of time has passed and we're kind of heading into 2026 season now. How does it feel knowing that you are the reigning champion?
Yeah, I think it's we were so busy because we also did the last 2-3 rounds of GT World Challenge Endurance, and the championship finished on a Sunday. Amazing, you know, it was one of the most amazing afternoons, and a lot of pressure release. Like, you know, I mentioned it on TV. Ultimately, I sadly lost my dad the year before, and he was, you know, to be able to get that over the line, and almost, you know, part of me was to be able to do that for him was amazing. So there was a huge pressure release, huge satisfaction, and yeah, extremely proud of what we've achieved, considering it was my first season in GT3 and Kian's first year in a Merc and his first full season back in a while. So I think a massive sense of achievement and pride, and but at the same time, though, as I said, the race finished, we had Barcelona the week after, and it was like, right, focus turned to that straight away. So we almost didn't really get a chance to celebrate. But I think when we started, there was a 2C's Christmas party, late November, early December, and it's like it was kind of a championship winning slash, because obviously they won the Gold Cup in GT World Challenge Europe as well with running the Verstappen car, and so I think a chance at that party to meet back up with people and reminisce and go over what happened was it started sinking in a bit more. And I don't, it's an amazing achievement, and I'm so happy, but I don't necessarily, I'm not, maybe it sounds a bit of a cliche, but I don't do it for the accolades. Of course I want to win the championship, of course I want to be GT3 championship, but for me, I just love going racing, whether it was in, whatever it was in. I just enjoy and seeing that progression. And for me, I get massive satisfaction out of being able to progress as a driver and see how far I can get over the short kind of time period I've started racing. So, you know, we were already talking about what to do for this year, and you know, we also had good success in Europe. We won the GT World Challenge Europe round in Nürburgring, which was, you know, a huge achievement. Probably one of my best races of the year, really, and coming from, I think, like P13 in class to win P1, we got a bit of a luck of the leader crashing out. So, but I guess you need luck. So, yeah, being able to reminisce on all those achievements, and having the tag GT3 British GT3 champion or British GT champion was, I feel very privileged to have that achievement, and maybe don't recognize it enough. Maybe I need to pat myself on the back a little bit more, but no, very proud of the achievement. And so, actually, sorry, just to add as well, to be able to do it with Kian, you know, who's such a good guy, was mega. So yeah.
So I just want to take you back just to the Donington last round again, and the contact with the Blackthorn Aston. What was going through your mind in that moment where you were both almost staring at each other across the track?
Yeah, that was quite funny. To be honest with you, I didn't really notice him when we were facing. Obviously, I noticed him when he hit me, but or when we hit each other. But when I wasn't really looking at him when we were facing each other. I was looking at what traffic was coming. So I was just like, I need to get out of this ASAP. So until I watched it back, I didn't really appreciate that we were literally kind of locked eyes in front of each other. So. Yeah, it was. I was struggling on slicks on the wet. I think I was in my head a bit. You know, as the championship was on the line, and you know, I think the mid-engine cars, the Lambos, were disappearing up ahead, and I was probably being a little bit too tentative, a bit too cautious. But when he was coming, I kind of positioned mid corner, and checked my mirrors. There was nothing there, and then obviously he made the later lunge, and no, but it was certainly. it was certainly an adventurous moment. Yeah, one that we hadn't planned, obviously.
Did that affect the mood in the garage after you swapped drivers, or were you still really determined to still win it and you felt you could?
No, I think certainly no. I think it certainly added a few more nerves to the situation, but no, ultimately everyone was just focused on doing what they needed to do, and I came back through the pack quite nicely and ended up pitting, I think, back in P3. So it was not an ideal stint, and obviously we had the extra 10 seconds added to the pit stop for the contact with Tilbrook. So no, certainly not how I envisaged or would have wanted the stint to go, but at the same time, made some nice overtakes and raced well to get back to that point. Apart from a couple of those moments. So no, but the guys in the garage were laser focused on what they needed to do, and ultimately Kian just needed to bring the car home. And so yeah.
So you've always spoken about your rounds in GT World Challenge Europe. How different is that as an experience as a whole compared to a championship like British GT?
I think it's a natural step up, isn't it? It's I would say it's probably one of the most competitive GT series in the world when you look at the number of cars on grid, the quality of those drivers. So in terms of not just the quality of bronze drivers, the quality of the silver drivers, gold, platinum, you've just got a much bigger breadth of talent, and it's I don't know the track so well. There's more cars on track to get used to. It's a big step up, and it's not just you're not just fighting in a category, in a pro-am category, or last year in some of the races there was 13, 14 cars, so you don't have your best qualifying, but you've got good race pace. You can kind of, you've got there's not too much traffic to come through. But GT World Challenge, you have a bad qualifying, you're not only behind bronze cars, you're behind other silver cars. You've got gold and pro cars coming out of place. So it's just everything is more intense, but in so many ways, and so no, I relish the challenge. Really, it's a really difficult series to get to grips with. And qualifying, there's more traffic. It's again in British GT, you're qualifying with 13, 14 GT3 cars going around. Last year they've changed the format this year, but last year you were sharing the track with 60 plus cars. So to find a gap in qualifying was mind-numbingly difficult. So it's a different beast overall, and we're kind of relishing getting stuck into the challenge this year.
As we're talking, it's the Silverstone 500 this weekend. Obviously, huge event in British GT and just in UK GT racing generally. What's your goal for the weekend, and how are you feeling ahead of it? Because it's a big one.
Yeah, I'm really excited actually. It's a one-off race we're doing in British GT this year, so yeah, it's just there's no pressure. It's just want to go and enjoy it, and I love the Silverstone, my home track. I was born in Milton Keynes, so we used to live about 10 minutes away from the circuit. So it's always nice going back and being able to race there, and it is just such an amazing circuit. Expectations, we'd love to win it. We came close last year. If it wasn't for my mistake under full course yellow, I think we would have, we had a 30-second penalty and we came out a second behind the BMW. So yeah, we do want to try and win it, but it's a bit of a lottery race in terms of strategy sometimes. So it can be outside of your control, but we've just got to go there and do the things that we can do. And yeah, we've got the weight limit. We've got the 25 kilograms back. I think we'll be the only car with that. So we'll have our work cut out in that sense. And I think we get, because Kian's now a gold and he's pairing with me as an AM plus, I think we get an extra 10 seconds added to our final pit stop. So the odds are stacked against us, but we're going to give it our best shot. And the weather's looking good. We've got people. I've got friends and family coming to the event because we only live we don't live too far away. So yeah, and as you say, it's one of the best GT weekends in the UK. So yeah, just really excited about it, Jonathan.
I was going to say, was that challenge part of your motivation to do it then?
Yeah, definitely, and yeah, 100%. It's to try and get our names on the RAC trophy would be so it's pretty historic trophy. So yeah, it'd be a nice achievement to have. And It also fills a gap quite nicely in terms of the calendar because obviously for GT World Challenge Europe we don't do Brands Hatch as the bronze class, so there's quite a big gap from Paul Ricard a couple of weeks ago to Mons at the end of May. So it also kind of fills a gap quite nicely. It gets us back in the car but no, 100%. Yeah, it was the motivation is to try and win and right the wrong of last year.
So how much preparation have you done for like leading up to Silverstone this year? Have you done any actual in-car testing, and what does the preparation actually look like for you as a driver?
Yeah, so obviously we've had the kind of, I guess the main prep this year has been for GT World Challenge Europe. So we did a couple of days pre-season for that back in March, and then we've had the first race in GT World Challenge Europe in Paul Ricard last weekend, and then for Silverstone itself, we've not actually taken any testing there. I think we budget wise we are it's not cheap to GT World Challenge Europe, so we didn't really want to do any extra testing for Silverstone. It would have been nice to do a little bit more, but I know the track well. We always run well there. The Merc goes well there. TC's are next door, so I don't feel like it's going to hamper us in terms of not getting any on track time there before the event this year. But doing a bit of sim prep with Kian this week. We'll do 2 or 3 hours on the sim. Again, nothing too heavy. I think you can get carried away in the sim a little bit too much. So just refreshing, getting into the track, and watching some of the videos back of last year, and just seeing where I can learn from repeat mistakes. What corners was I struggling with last year? Where can I improve? So yeah, it's definitely the best prep is in car, is obviously at the right track, but we all know motorsport's difficult for that. So yeah, there's certainly some basics that we'll be doing this week.
So your racing career so far has obviously took you to quite a wide range of circuits, mainly within Europe. Do you have a favourite track you've raced on?
I would say I think I love Portimao. I really enjoy Portimao. I think it's one of the top circuits out there. Where else I really enjoy? I mean, obviously Spa is amazing. Is it one of the best? Yeah, it is. It is very special there. So yeah, Spa is definitely top of that list. I really enjoyed in the 2022. We went to Zolder. That was really good fun. That's a cool little fast flowing circuit. So, but honestly, not just saying this. Some of the tracks in the UK are brilliant because I love the fact that they are, there's the track edge and you've got grass or gravel. There's no track limits. There's none of this. With Paul Ricard last week, it's just crazy, like the amount of runoff and stuff. And I think it doesn't ruin racing, but it certainly makes it a different sport, in my opinion. We did some pre-season testing at Zandvoort. That was amazing. That was one of the best tracks I've driven in a GT3 car. Again, it's narrow, it's bumpy, it's there's no track limits. It's either gravel or track, and I don't know. For me, that's how track should be. So yeah, I don't have a single answer for you. So I would say in my top 3, I'd place Portimao, Spa, and Zandvoort.
And if you had to choose a couple of your favourite UK tracks, which would those be?
I would say Silverstone and Brands Hatch, obviously with the GP loop, and Alton Park close behind. Yeah.
Thanks for your time today, Charles. Before you go, for anyone listening who wants to check you out on social media, kind of keep up with this year as you're progressing through the season this year, where can they find you? Where can they follow you?
Just Instagram, yeah. So Charles Dawson Racing, 2Cs do it all. They've got some great social media guys, to be honest with you. So it's out of my hands, but yeah, that's the main place. So no, if people want to find out what we're doing, then have a look on Instagram.
Brilliant. Well, thanks so much for your time today, joining Down to the Tyre, and best of luck this weekend at the Silverstone 500 and for the rest of the year as well.
No, I appreciate it. No, I'm happy to have answered some of you guys' questions, and I hope the podcast keeps growing.